When Burnout Becomes Reality, a podcast that combines lived experience with the scientific knowledge of burnout to help listeners prevent, recover, and grow from burnout. My name is Shannon Swales, a human and clinical psychologist with both lived experience and scientific knowledge and skills in burnout. It is my hope that the values of authenticity, compassion, wisdom, and community shine through in each and every episode of the pod. Episodes that share my own and others' lived experiences of burnout, and interviews expert guests to help listeners build awareness and hope to prevent, recover, and grow from burnout. The views, opinions, tips, and the like expressed by myself or my guests are not a replacement of personalised therapy. Just like I have done for myself and many of my guests, I encourage those of you that are suffering to seek professional help. Hi, and welcome to episode 28 of the pod. In this episode, you get the chance to learn from the wisdom of Ange, a certified mindset and wellbeing coach, founder of the Conscious Living Hub and co-author of Goodbye Busy, Hello Happy, the magic of breaking up with busy and finding more time for joy. Our discussion flows from her own personal and professional journey and how this formed and developed into the steps that she shares with us in terms of the finding balance in this fast-paced world. And along the way, we explore and share our own personal recovery and the challenges with that, and also those that we work with in order to hopefully help serve you, the listener. We talk and discuss about many things such as saying no, communicating to loved ones the need for help, perfectionism. But more than anything, she shares with us these 5 key steps to help go from busy to balance whilst living in this fast-paced world with all the weight of expectations, those pressures that come with it. So tune in to discover how you can live, as Ange puts it, a full, not busy, life that is balanced and joyful. Thank you for following When Burnout Becomes Reality podcast. Well, hello, Ange, and welcome to When Burnout Becomes Reality podcast. Lovely to finally have you here.
Thanks, Shannon. I'm excited to be here and to share some wisdom in this really important conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely love this topic that we're focusing on today. So busy to balance, finding happiness in a fast-paced world, and that it is. So first of all, I'd love to get to know a little bit about Ange and help the listeners get to know about Ange personally, professionally. What brings you to be talking about this topic with us?
Yeah, thanks. So I am now a mindset and wellbeing coach, and my journey started many, many years ago. Probably as a kid, I was very active. I was, introduced to the benefits of being physically active, and then when I went on to university, I chose to study sports science. I knew I was good at the time. I knew I was good at science and sports, so I thought I'll combine the two, which is where my sort of passion for this area started. And in that time I got to learn a lot about epidemiology and nutrition and the how we fuel our body. And then when I entered the workforce, I sort of started to realize that you need so much more than physical and physical health. That it's our mindset. If our mindset's not sharp, and if we're not adding tools and resources to our belt to help us cope when adversity hits, we really, really struggle. So I didn't go straight into the field. I sort of did a bit of a sliding doors. I've ended up in marketing for quite a long period of my life. And then, like many of us, we have that personal story that hits. There's that moment in your life when you just can't go on for whatever reason. So mine was about, it probably started about 8 years ago. There's a lot right in my world. I was happily married. I had 3 kids, but I had 3 kids under 2. So That's, twins, so that's
Yeah.
always, adds a
Oh, I mean, the
complexity.
under two. Yeah.
I was a perfectionist, so I just kept adding things into my life, which most people who experience burnout do.
Mm.
And then my mum got cancer,
Oh,
so my whole world just sort of got turned upside down, and
yeah.
my body started to tell me I've had enough.
Yeah.
So that's that's sort of
Mm.
I loved. I was always really passionate about it. Then those life just showed me, like if
Mm.
I want to enjoy life, I need to do something about my own personal world.
Mm.
And my passions, said, well, like, now's the time. I need to get into this mindset and wellbeing coaching. I need to retrain. I need to get back into this passion that I had 20 years ago that had been idling along in the sidelines. I'd been learning, I'd been constantly doing that stuff, but I hadn't given myself permission to do
Mm.
what brings me joy,
Mm.
and to be balanced and to live the life that makes me happy, which is why I've sort of transformed my life,
Mm.
and I'm now really proud of the my full life that I live. It's it's still
Yeah.
full of lots of great things, but it's much more closely aligns with what makes me happy, and therefore
Yeah.
um, and I was always a really altruistic person. I like to help others, so tying the two
Mm.
together now just it's just the perfect start for me, perfect sort of new career.
Yeah. Wow. Like that missing element in your own personal story, the following what brings you joy, following your passion. And although that was curdling or forming on the outside, hadn't the words you just said given permission to do that, and this crashing point in your life where a multitude of stresses coming together, emotional events, parenting, parenting 3 children under 2, oh my god, and twins, and the complexities of that, which I've heard and of course your mum with cancer, and so so many things, and yeah, that was a turning point to follow what
Yeah,
brings you joy.
yeah.
Yeah, wow. And that
And
brings you to,
helping,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
I just said helping others,
Yeah.
I think helping others know that they don't have to be on this path. Because I think for
Mm,
me, I stayed on it for too long, like I just kept
mm,
doing the same thing and it wasn't
mm.
serving me. And so I, once I gave my permission, now, if I can help someone else give themselves permission to
Yeah.
take a risk and to make a change that's going to help them, then, it's a good day.
Yeah, it's all that the lessons, the life that you've led, the lessons that you've learned and changed and implemented is now what you're passing on to others and working with. And it makes me think of your book, that's the key in your book. I'm just going to read out the name of it because it's just awesome. Goodbye, busy. Hello, happy. The magic of breaking up with busy and finding more time for joy. And what you shared about your personal story there is connecting your work life, but life, I imagine, with what brings you joy and giving yourself permission. So many of us are on a pathway, and I say us because I can't talk with everybody else, of course, but people I've come across and work with and myself, I was following a path, but it wasn't a path that was truly connected to what brought me joy. I don't know, I was just leading a path, I think, almost blindly. But then realizing it wasn't bringing me joy, it wasn't aligned with what was of value, importance, or not completely, but it involved crashing, burning out. And perfectionism was a quality of mine too. Just when you said perfectionism, I'm like, oh, hello. And that, realizing joy was missing, and that was an element I needed to connect with and find in my journey back into life and into work. Yeah. So yeah, very similar stories, and I know a lot of people have them.
Yeah, very common, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's get into this, and one of the things I suppose I was really curious about in your work and in this discussion as we were preparing for this chat was talking a bit more, sharing with the audience what you mean by this busy culture that we find ourselves in, that is something that's a rife around the world too. But yeah, can you share a bit more about this busy culture? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess when we're referring to the busy culture, it's kind of referring to the pressure that society places on us. You know, we're told to constantly be active and productive at all costs. And when, you know, you do, you know, when I was younger, like if I sat on the couch, I was kind of, it was implied to me that I was being lazy. And so everything we do was, you know, you need to be alert, you need to be up, you need to be, you know, doing things. So I think, and then a lot of praise comes with being busy, you know. So society is constantly telling us that, you know, if you're productive or you're efficient or you get things done, then you're, you know, you're doing what society wants you to do and you get praised for it. So, yeah, I think that's at the crux of it. You know, the always been on, you know, and always on society. And then when you look around you, like everything's been engineered to make our lives easier and to allow us to achieve more. So, you know, in the good old days, we didn't have fast food, we didn't have washing machines, and all these things have been introduced, you know, to try to give us back time. But instead of using that time for good, we're using that time to just add, and say we've done this, this, and this, and we're still doing that. And yeah, it's just never ending. And then I think the final thing for me around the busyness, the culture, is that social media means that we can see it so much more frequently. So we're constantly being reminded about how much people are doing. So we're like, I need to do that too. I must have to do that too, because everybody else is doing it. Everybody else can fit that much into their day and achieve and be happy. So I must have to do that too.
Yeah, that social media element definitely, like, I love how you say it's so richness. It's that we can see this busyness in other people, and then we feel a sense of, well, yeah, I've got to be too. And we've got such a strong innate survival need to belong, and so it's quite innate for us to be swept up into that, even if we don't want to be, because of our biology there of belonging. And if belonging means we've got to keep up with, you know, Joe Blow, you know, but thousands of Joe Blows on the social media now, we do. And I also love what you said there about, I never thought about it that way. Yeah, there's so many things that are designed to help us, you know, to quicken other processes in our life, which we could then use to, you know, fill up, or not fill up, but, you know, like you said, for good. It might be, to take rest, or, you know, connect, have that, you know, time with friends, family, whatever. But we continue to add, we continue to fast pace it. And it made me think, I was watching, it's on Netflix. Anyway, I was just watching this part of it. It wasn't what the whole Netflix show was about, but I was watching this Italian family cooking a meal. And this was like a couple of years ago now, but I think it's an island and they are quite slow paced. And oh, that's right, this island's known for people living really longer, like average. And one of the things they were doing was what, you know, like, there's no fast food, I think, there, or anything like that. They were actually slowing down and making things from scratch. You know, they were making the bread, they were making the pasta, and, you know, things just seemed slow and measured, and slow connection, but it wasn't this fast doing. I mean, yeah, they're making their whole meal from scratch, but there seemed to be a lot of enjoyment in that. But it just was a reminder for me about the need for slow.
Yeah. And I think that really ties in nicely to that sense of belonging as well. So there's a lot of research to show the value of connection and the value of cooking a meal, and how that, you know, the sharing of a meal, how it brings people together. You know, that's why the kitchen is the center of our homes. And, you know, more and more people need to embrace the center of their home and use it to connect and to share. You know, we share stories when we connect. We always talk about what we're eating. So yeah, I think I agree with the cultures that are doing it well, and the people, parts of society that are probably happier have nailed that connection piece of cooking and sharing a meal and passing on those traditions.
Yeah, in a slower paced society, definitely. What is, like, you know, with this fast paced culture and this like busy culture. I also, like, some of my clients use this word too, just do. Like, I'm doing. I just don't stop. Like the doer. Like, I think they often say the doer. Like, I suppose you're talking to, like, well, how is it affecting us? Like, what the things that it's like the illnesses, and I know that's a very quite physiological word, but I mean illness in terms of emotionally, mentally, physically, behaviorally, like spiritually even, how it affects us, trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to say.
Yeah, I think the main impact is that there's a lot of unhappy people in the world. They might be ticking all the boxes and doing all the right things, but they're not smiling, and they're just going through their paces. They're not present. They lose their color in their face. They look exhausted. I think that's the impact it's having, is that, and then they've lost the connection. We're not connecting with our the people that we care about. And then you see the impact that it has on them in their workplace, because if they are really entering that state of burnout, then they start to make mistakes, and their physical health really deteriorates. And but hopefully we catch them before then. We want to try to catch people before they hit the state of burnout, and hit them in that earlier phase where they're exhausted. But if they can start to see the warning signs, and the more conversations we have that help people go, oh yeah, I see that in myself, or I can see I'm starting on that path, or I'm not experiencing that yet, but that's me. Hopefully we can catch them earlier, and they can start to make changes in their life that ensures they don't have a huge burnout story of their own.
No, definitely prevention, or catching it early, like any condition, anything, it's better than at the later stages. Still possible to do something at later stages, but we want to catch early, definitely. And that's why conversations like this, and for people listening, going out, there's so much richness now in with podcasts, books, everything, that blogs, you can find out about those risk factors and things like that. But that what you were saying there, that the overall thing that you've noticed is that we're just extremely unhappy, with living in this fast-paced culture, and we're led to believe that these things will make us happy, have the great job, tick, have the great house, tick, have the children, or whatever it might be, travel. Mine was travel, and being able to travel every year, a couple times a year. I mean, I was internationally traveling. I had my 2 dogs, well, actually 1 dog at the time. I've got my 2 dogs now. That's my family, my partner of many years. And, but I was bloody unhappy. I was miserable. I was depressed. It was, got that bad. It doesn't, make us happy. We're seeing a lot of unhappy people, and it can show up in our bodies. You were saying, we could be burnt out, definitely. But it can come up as a heart attack. It can come up as depression. It can come up so many ways, autoimmune conditions, stress-induced diabetes. Shit, the list is endless, isn't it? And how it comes up that, trying to keep in this culture of busy and keeping up with everybody else as well. So it's not the key.
I think we find, I've also noticed as well that, women seem much more susceptible to the burnout, because, like you just were talking about, we were fed the dream. We were fed the dream that you can have it all. And so who were we to question that dream? And we just all kept adding things to our lives. You added you added the job, you added the travel, you add the children, you add the house cleaning, like the list just goes on and on and on and on. But we never stopped to question whether the dream was faulty in any way.
Does it actually work? But you're so right, because the evidence is out there that women are at more risk of burning out than in the male population, and it seems to be what and I would concur, is that but we were fed that we could have it all. We could still be that the mum, the traditional mum, or the mum like we saw our mums be. And I don't know about your mum, but my mum was a stay-at-home mum. She didn't, she did work, definitely raising 4 kids. but also my dad they had a business, and she would work a couple of nights a week in the office. So she was she was doing more than full-time work. But we were fed the, well, you could have the career
as well as,
and you can raise kids, and it's like, and then manage a household, because most of the caring duties are still performed by the woman, the woman in the household. So the women I speak to who are mums, like, they seem to be playing their CEO, their manager, their everything of their household, as well as the parent, and as well as trying to keep a career in their profession or whatever they're doing. And might be on a part-time basis, which is even in some ways harder to do when you're only part-time there in your profession. But yeah, anyway, it's just crazy, the expectations that we were given, messages we were given. And then add social media in there, where you're seeing other, we tend to only portray the positives. Look at me at family holiday, or it's like, and so we're seeing that and thinking, oh well, why are we not keeping it all together? But the reality is, none of us really are. No.
Not possible.
Not possible. I always like to, that's why I share my story. It's like, even as a psychologist, with awareness and understanding about how to take care of yourself, and even of the conditions you're at risk of, and I still fell prey to it because I was still keeping up with the Joneses, so to say. I mean, there's a lot of complexity to it, but that was one of them. But hey, fast-paced world, living to the busy culture, we get ill. We just do. We get unhappy. Now, one of the things that I know with looking into your work that that you help others with is finding this balance. Well, we can't change the fact that we have a busy culture, and getting frustrated and annoyed at it, which I have been and still get, doesn't help either, because it is the reality that we face, and no one has the power to shift a culture on their own. Of course, power of many people and these kind of conversations, yes, we can. But we're in this fast-paced culture. We are living in this busy culture. How does one, find balance in this? Or what does this finding balance look like? That's what I, wanted to check in with you.
Right. Yeah, I think firstly, it's important to say that balance will look different for everyone. So what balance feels and looks like for me will be different to what it feels and looks like for you, and it'll be different to what it feels and looks like for all of your listeners. But I think the first, as I said, I think for many women or people, we slowly lose our identity. And so most women come and see me, they're in some shape or form lost their identity. So they've forgotten what brings them joy. They have very little in their life, and as they get more and more stuck into their work or their household duties, they've stopped going to the movies, or they've stopped going for a walk, or having a cup of tea outside, or whatever it is that brings them joy. So and that balance. So one of the first things I do with my clients is we have a really big session around reminding ourselves about what used to make you happy, so that you've got that list. So we talk about, what emotions do you like to feel? And then what activities do you have, do you need to do to bring that emotion to life? And it's, it's probably the favorite session I do with my clients, because they have that aha moment. They're like, oh, yeah, that's right. I remember, like just sitting outside and feeling the warmth on my skin, or just, taking the time to go for a walk, or hearing the waves, crash onto the beach. Yeah, that's a good feeling. I like that. And when did you, then I'll say, when did you last do it? And they're like, 5 years ago. And so I think that's for me, a really important sort of first step in helping people figure out what balance might look like for them moving forward, and to present that little bit of hope that it still can exist. It wasn't that long ago that you were feeling these great emotions. It's just tapping back into them. So that's probably the first important.
I was just saying, what a beautiful way to start. I know you said that, because often we go see a coach or a psych or a counselor, whoever, and that the focus is on and can be and is on like the sort of the negatives, I suppose, what is going and how you're feeling. But I love that to tap into what are those emotions you want to be feeling, those often what we associate with positive, and the joy and all that kind of stuff, and what has helped you feel that, what are those loves, and helping them connect, because they walk away with that hope and that be able to reconnect. That's beautiful. I just love that. It made me think of my own story. One of the things that I did in my recovery was because I was completely joyless. There was no pleasure, and I don't know where it came from, but I was like, I'm going to look back into my photo albums, because my lovely mum kept photo albums. And I just wanted to go right back, because I felt like the last time I was happy was when I was a kid, which was not true, but that's where my brain was at the time. So I went back with the lens of what sparked joy, what did you love doing, and oh my god, was that so invigorating. That I journaled about it, because I was I still am a journaler, but I journaled about it. It was such a beautiful thing to do, and to give me direction about how I could bring that back, or not necessarily, because some things I don't want to do anymore, but like connecting with activities that could bring those emotions. It's a wonderful thing you do with your clients. So that's like one of the key factors with finding balance, is doing this with your clients? Is that?
Absolutely. For me, it's the first step. It's that, remind them what happiness looks like.
Lovely.
Because once they know what happiness looks like, then we can work on getting rid of the busy, but it gives us a starting point. And it also reminds them that it will be easier than they thought to bring back one or two things into their life that is going to start to swing that pendulum back in the direction that they want it to go.
It's possible. It's not complex. Often I know some of my clients go, it can't be that simple, like some of the things we're doing, because they're expecting, because with something that is so obviously impactful on their life, we often believe that it needs to be a complex answer. Doesn't necessarily need to be, or is. So that's such a brilliant first step. Love it. Actionable step that people can do is connecting back with what brought them happiness before, and bringing them into their lives. What about the second? Because I know there is these, and I know I haven't mentioned, but we were talking before this about there's these 5 key actionable steps you have with finding balance. Well, I feel like it's almost like finding or reconnecting with this joy, but overall balance. So that's the first key step. Is that right? I'm getting that right?
That's kind of the pre-step, and then I've got the 5.
Gotcha.
That's the
pre-step. That's the pre-step.
I've got the 5 steps. And the next 5 steps really focus on the person who is completely burnt out. They've completely, swung the pendulum the wrong way. They are just so stuck in busy and have got no idea what to do first. They're like, where do I start? I'm so overwhelmed. All I know is I'm on this hamster wheel and it's turning, but it's not working. So the first thing I get clients to do is to literally just look at their calendar for the next 2 weeks and look at what they can say no to. What can they go back and cancel? Because we need to open ourselves up to put that free space back in our lives. And until you say no to, I don't really need to go to that dinner on Saturday night, or I don't really need to watch training for my son, or I don't really need to also do this and this. They giving themselves permission. So that's step 1. Just unschedule. Give yourself permission to slow down. And then the second step, if you want me to continue, is
please do. And then we'll double up. But that's such a and I love that, just taking 2 weeks, because again, that just being able to hone in on a couple of weeks rather than the whole kind of life. Is like, let's just look at the next 2 weeks and look at what we can take off, like taking that load off, which is such an important first step with burnout when it's reached its peak. Is it's definitely targeting the load. But I love that you get them to focus on just a couple of weeks, the next couple of weeks. It's really
And then the second step I encourage my clients to look at is the refueling stage. So I guess that comes back to my roots. Very passionate about being physically well. And so I really challenge them to look at their sleep, nutrition, and exercise habits, and encouraging them to make conscious decisions in that space over that same next couple of weeks. That's going to help refuel them again and help give them that brain power again. You know, often when you're at that state of burnout, like your brain's not working, so you can't make good decisions. So yeah, so first, if we unschedule and we just, you know, take a couple of things off our plate, and then we refuel, within that couple of weeks, you know, you do start to feel a bit more energized. You do start to have moments where your brain feels a little bit clearer, and you've got a little bit more clarity, and you've got a little bit more belief that you can start to maybe make some changes in your life that's going to, you know, ensure you head down the right path.
Yeah, finding that balance. Yeah, with starting with these. Yeah. Starting with these couple of things. Yeah, so refueling. Yeah, such fundamental elements to our well-being. You know, yeah, sleep, nutrition, movement, and focusing on that.
And most people who are busy, they've stopped that. They've stopped eating well. They've stopped going to, you know, they might know they need 10 hours of sleep a night, but they've stopped doing it.
Yeah.
You know, they think they're, they can't, they can't possibly go to bed at night. Well, you can, because then when you start your next day, you're much more productive and you achieve a lot more in a lot less time. So yes, that's step 2. And then step 3 is when we get into like the reflection stage. So this is when we start to look at, okay, we've unscheduled, I'm feeling healthier. Now it's trying to figure out what the real problem is. So is it work? Is it the constant running around for your kids? Is it that, you know, you're currently bookended by aging parents and you've got your young kids? You know, what is it that's you know, that you're carrying the whole mental load? Really narrowing, you know, jotting down everything that's currently adding to your busyness. And then giving it a score out of 10. So I think it's really important. You've done this too, Shannon. Like,
maybe not.
we feel overwhelmed because there's so much on our plate. But if we take the time to write it all down, and we take the time to give each area of overwhelm a number, we're starting to visually see that there is a difference. It's not all, everything's not overwhelming at the same level. And actually, yes, it's overwhelming, but it's not that big a deal, or it's only minor. And you can start to see the ones that are really probably the root of the problem. So
I love the number thing, and that's something I haven't done it in that way, but I love it because when we're overwhelmed, it could be that all those things are contributing, but the numbering helps. It's such a great thing for the listeners. The numbering helps to identify where the root of the issue is. So then in working with you, you can narrow down on that issue, that area, to find out the crux of that. Yeah, that's a really brilliant intervention there in itself. Well done.
So then once they've reflected and we've got this big list, we've got our numbers, we then I then encourage them to choose one of their busier scores, and we dive deeper again. So then we sort of write down all the things about, so say if they've chosen work, you know, that are making them to feel overwhelmed. So is it, you know, the pile of unanswered emails, the report they need to finish, the number of meetings each day, you know, whatever it is, you know, just jot it all down. And usually people can come up with, again, this helps because it's like that you've started off with this big problem and now we've broken it down to say 6, and then we're looking at 1 and we're creating lots of mini things that are happening each day that are adding to your overwhelm. So once I got that list, I sort of get them to identify. We brainstorm. I'm a real solutions focused person. So I do work with my clients to, you know, keep asking them questions so that they can come and identify their own solutions, because for every problem, you know, I do believe that with every problem there is a solution. So we'll look at it. So say, you know, they talk about you know, the unanswered emails. We can talk to them about, you know, have you ever tried only looking at your emails 3 times a day, you know, or with the meetings, you know, have you blocked out focus time into your day? Like, what are you doing? How are you structuring your day so that it works for you, and these things that you've identified as overwhelming, we can shrink them. And and I do believe, with most people I work with, like, they've just not, the tool hasn't been shared with them before, or the technique or the tip, or so if we have a really good chat about whatever it is that they've put as their number top busyness factor, jot down the list, and then start to make solutions. What can they
doing that brainstorming to once the the root of the problem's been identified, which one's causing the most stress, that looking at, then brainstorming all possible solutions that, like you said, they may not have thought of already. Or I find too, they're so caught up in the distress of it all themselves, because they're the human experiencing this, that they've, as you said earlier too, where our brains aren't functioning very well, our decision-making qualities, all that kind of stuff is not as powerful in those times. So having a coach, having someone to be able to brainstorm and work through that and offer and come up with solutions can help in that area to find that balance, or get them on that road to balance for them. That's brilliant.
I often find as well in this stage, most people who are burnt out, they're not very good at delegating. They take it all, want to do everything themselves. And so I often find that, one of their issues might be meetings, but the real issue is that, they're creating the agenda, they're doing the minutes, they're putting themselves down for too many actions. So, I try to work with them, okay, what are 2 things you can stop doing as well? So in this stage where we dive deeper, what are you willing to let go in this particular task that's overwhelming you? Is it, rotating the chair, or rotating who writes the minutes, or is it making sure that when you are creating the action list, that you're only giving yourself one task, or that you're, even that everyone in your team is getting being allocated the right number of tasks based on their capacity. So I find that pretty powerful too. Is in this stage you've got to look at what are you going to stop doing.
No, definitely. So some of the solutions in this stage, in this third key factor, is that it's about what they can let go of, in the behaviors that they're engaging in that are contributing to them being so chronically stressed and burnt out, which can be taking on too much and finding it hard to delegate, which can be part of that. And I certainly find that as well. Actually, it made me think of I called myself toxically independent, which I thought I actually coined the term, and then Googled and found out nope. There's and I know there's a lot of people, but again, it was messages from younger years, and I think it's a generational thing as well. That it was just that you did everything yourself. So I would never ask for help. I'd never put something on someone else. I would always do it myself, and I called it toxic because it burnt me out and caused depression. It was part of the picture for me. So such a vital point you're making here is that it's not necessarily adding, in this reflection and problem solving with these stresses, that, it might not necessarily, be something different, or I suppose something different you're doing, but it might be letting go of things. The stopping doing things rather than doing something different. I suppose it's different, but it's stopping doing something.
The other really big one I see is that, how we CC everyone into an email, and you're then, so say if you're the manager and all of your employees are CCing you, then all of a sudden you're opening up so much load scanning these emails. So another great, thing I encourage people in that space is stop getting CC'd. The minute you stop being CC'd into emails, and you trust that in that weekly update you have from your team member that you're going to get all the relevant information, for hours are saved, because you haven't A, read the emails, B, you haven't spent time or energy wondering how they're going to solve it. And then by the time you meet with them in a week, not only have they had maybe 20 emails going back and forth, they've problem solved, they've come up with a solution, and all they present to you is the outcome, or the way forward. And it's powerful. It's so much more powerful to just hit the outcome, or the way forward, and not have had spent any of that time wondering what they're going to do.
No, such a, yeah, because I was thinking not only the hourly, but the mental load as well of that. And yeah, some of these things, like, they're simple, but so not cost, sorry. Well, cost in terms of our health, cost saving in terms of our health and well-being, bringing that back. And it made me think of an old manager that I used to work under. I was a team leader and she was the lead and the manager, and just some things that she put in place that, and I won't go into details, but it allowed her not, because she was like, okay, I trust, she's got a team of 5-6 team leaders who help on the ground, the running day to day, and she didn't need to be overseen and everything, and we would catch up once a week. It was just, and we didn't have to CC her into all these emails.
She's
brilliant
ahead
stuff.
of her time.
She was, I mean, she's interesting enough. She had a combination of psych and business degree, MBA and stuff like that, and many, many years on the ground experience in both those things, and life, as well. So, learned a lot off that lady. So appreciated working with her. So we've got three down, and some of already talking to some of the challenges or what you notice, or not challenges, but the important intricacies of some of these steps as well, like with the reflection step and that problem solving, that is often delegating and letting go. What are these last two ones, in the for the burnt out individual, to help finding that, getting onto that road of balance, that is unique to the individual, as you pointed out earlier?
So the next one is basically to act. So it's to look at everything you've jotted down and put some sort of a plan into action. So what are you going to hold yourself accountable to over the next couple of weeks, that's going to help you shift this level of busyness that you're feeling? So it comes back to the things that you've identified that you want to unschedule and staying true to those. It might be one or two things around your refueling, around what you've said to yourself that you're going to achieve, and then it's starting to put one or two things in place around this main thing we've identified, that might make a difference. And look, as you would have experienced too, you've got to start slow. You're not, if you try to bite off too much, you're just going to be left disappointed. So I definitely work with clients to say, let's just, let's pick, 2 or 3 things. What is it that you're going to own? What is it that you're going to be able to come back in a couple of weeks and say, you know what, I did it. I didn't go out to dinner, and I did, action this in my meetings or whatever, like, small attainable steps that are going to make a difference. And, and I also, in this acting stage, and, it's not always going to work. So you're gonna say no to things, but then something else could trigger, and that's okay. So it's just about, in this act phase, just really listening, listening to the way you respond to these changes that you've made, and did it work, or did it create a bigger stress elsewhere, or just acknowledging it, and this is just that learning phase.
I love that. So that's such a protective factor around that stage with your clients too, because I to those important messages, start small, that expectation that this may not work, and to remain listening and observing. I often pitch it as like exploring, to find out what works for you, but having that conversation with a person, because often I've noticed in my time with working, that often my clients and me to higher expectations, like and we want things to work, because we're so, especially when we're already so burnt out, we want these things to be the magic, to help us feel better. But you and I know, that it's more that it's experimentation and exploration and tuning in, trial and error, working it out. But starting small, I love that too. Especially when you're burnt out, because we can't do, and we don't want to keep with the busy culture with our recovery, because that's what I did initially. I was the do that I then burnt out so much that I couldn't work. And then I was like, I want to get better. So then I applied and I committed to therapy. And then I applied my same doing nature to my therapy to start with. But thank God I caught that a little bit earlier and then slowed things down and went, no. This is going to take some more.
That's the key, isn't it? Like we go through this process and we learn tools and so that we can catch ourselves earlier each time. And that's really success. If you catch yourself a moment earlier each time, then it's working. You know,
exactly.
you are heading the right way. And I also say, you know, with my clients and even me personally, like I reset 2 to 4 times a year because depending on, you know, the kids' cycle at school, whether, you know, it's sport or start of the year, you know, change when their sporting commitments change. And I reset because I do find as well that things creep into my world, you know, like I feel really good and I'm like, oh, I'm great. I'm nailing this balancing at the moment. So I say, oh yes, I'm now going to say yes to this. And then I have to catch myself and go, you know, was it worth it? Is it working? Have I then pushed myself too far again? Do I need to say no to that now? Or is there something else that I want to remove so that I can keep doing that because I've said yes for the right reasons, but it has tipped me a little bit too far. So now what else has got to give?
Yeah. So you purposely set these resetting times in your year, like you said, 4 times to check in, like to purposely check in, you know, about how things are. Going.
And now it's a bit more natural. Like I don't have to sort of sit down and look at, you know, do it, but I can just reset at the end of each school term, basically, because, you know, my kids are at school, so it's easy to know, right? School holidays.
Taps on to well, they do say that, right, with any new behavior. I mean, it's become a lot more automatic for you now because you've been consciously choosing that for some time. But they do say to tap it on it to something that is already, you know, quite automatic, like end of school term. Makes sense. So that's but it, as you said, it's become a lot more natural for you to do automatically. So I imagine it might be even during the term sometimes, but definitely at the end.
That's right. Whenever you know you're going a bit the wrong way.
You're like, I'm sensing, I'm noticing.
This isn't working, this isn't going to work.
Nice.
And then the last little bit with that ACT phase, I guess it's ACT part 2, is looking back then to the happy list that you wrote. So what did you write at the beginning that makes you happy, and which activity are you going to give yourself permission to do over these next couple of weeks? Right, because you've said no to stuff and you've looked after your health, and what's something that's manageable. And again, it's slow, like depending what phase you are. If you're a new mum and you've got a newborn, well, it might be as simple as having a hot shower, you know, like it's what is it that brings you joy? And if it's that hot shower and you're a single mum, then who needs to come over and look after bums while you're in the shower, sort of thing. So it's just really making sure that they walk out with one thing they're going to add to their week or fortnight or whatever it is, that will hopefully spark that joy again. And then of course we know when we're happy or we're doing things that bring us joy, we feel more energized.
Definitely. It's so important. I love what you said there too. Like it's wherever you are at your time in life, and using that example of a new mum, you know, and of course you've got this full-on dependent child and it's not like you can do much, but there's a hot shower. You know, I was even thinking, you know, going for walks, you know, bubs in a pram, and it might be some of the things I mean, I'm not a mum, but I find, and I was doing it actually when I was unwell as well, when I was walking the dogs, is flowers bring me joy. So I was consciously choosing to look at flowers as I'd walk along, and even stop and look and really savor the experience to allow that joy, even though I wasn't feeling it straight away, but over time it didn't take long actually, to feel that joy in that moment. But often the things that spark joy are quite simple and available and accessible to us all, but it's reconnecting with that. And when we're in the thick of it, it can be hard too, but you know, being able to sit down with a coach like you and be able to reconnect with those things and figure out what is accessible in our time in our life, because that's got to,
Yeah.
when you've got a kid, about or you're running running a business, a solo business or whatever, there's so many barriers or potential blocks and barriers, but it can be the simple things. It's possible. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So that's part 2 of the act. Yeah, it's bringing back the stuff that you've already identified as what brings you joy, and bringing those in and committing to that action in that 4th key factor. The 5th actionable step.
Yeah, I guess, and the 5th is just to review. We just need to review it. So like I was going to say before, it's a work in process. You got to start slow. It's baby steps. You're not going to get it right the first time, but if you are committed to changing the path that you're on, by following these steps and reviewing it, regularly, you will make the changes that you've been craving.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I see so much richness in all of that. And I was just wondering, with your experience with helping people and even applying it to yourself, as we've heard as well, what sort of benefits do you notice that, probably outside of what we were like, joy, finding joy and happiness, but just some of the other things that your clients report or that, you've noticed, about finding this balance in this way.
One of the things I was going to sort of mention later around one of the challenges is,
and I wanted to talk challenges as well,
is around the communication. So communicating your needs with whoever is important in your life. So that's probably one of the big ones, is once, normally, like you said, we're that toxic independence. Many of us can lay claim to that. And myself personally, I'm grateful that I had my first child and then I had my twins second, because when I had my first child, I was that toxic independent person and I wanted to do it all myself. And then when I fell pregnant with twins, I was like, there is no way I can do this myself. All the books tell you can't. And so finally I was ready to not be my toxic self. Accept help. But the big one is the big change I see is, and what I empower clients I work with is, you've got to take someone else on the journey with you. And the ones that have the most success are the ones that have got the confidence and the courage to talk to their partner about the way they're feeling and what support they need from their partner, to make the shifts they want. And I think one of the best things is that they often come the next time and they're like, oh, my husband was so supportive, or my partner was so supportive, and because they want you to be happy, right? So they will go above and beyond to allow you that time or space that you need. But because most people have never communicated it, the partner's kind of in limbo, waiting to tell them what you want. So that's one of the best things.
Like you said, a challenge that a lot of your clients face is that being able to communicate what's going on for them and what they need, and at the same time, it's one of the things that helps with recovery as well, or helps with that, finding that balance, that joy, is being able to have that conversation, to have someone along the journey with you. It sounds like also that it would strengthen or has strengthened relationships. I'm sure there are times where there are, and I just want to acknowledge it, where people have, because I've had this with clients where they have shared, but there's a partner not willing, or not able, or something. So there is that downside sometimes. But certainly, a lot of, there's a percentage of time where we communicate what we need, we share what we're feeling, and it often, brings us closer together, when there's that willingness on both sides. And I know from my own personal experience as well, it took me a lot to share how I felt and what I needed, because I learned that, no, I was in service of other people, not people helping me, and allowing that in. But it was one of the most beautiful things to actually happen in my recovery too, by just asking for what I needed and sharing what I was feeling. Strengthened my relationship.
And then I think the other major shift you see is the amount of energy people have. when they start to, you know, consciously say no to the things that aren't serving them, and then say yes to those one or two things that are, because energy is powerful, right? And if we can tap into what gives us energy, and then what our energy zappers in the day, yeah, you know, then the people around you see that shift. They see that you know, you come to the table with a little bit more presence, and you know, you become that active listener again, and you're so I think energy, when you're creating balance, your energy shifts for the better, and that's probably one of the nicest wins, or one of the nicest outcomes that comes from by doing this process.
Definitely, because it's also one of the things, I don't know if you notice, you know, with clients as well, but I know one of the things that the clients I work with who are in the depths of burnout, that's one of the struggles. They're just like, I have no energy, and it really grates on them. And then one of the things as they're progressing and stuff, you know, is that when that energy comes back and how much that lights them up, and because they know what it's like to not have it and then have it, and it's beautiful to see. And I remember even, you know, I keep going back to my own experience, but I remember that I sort of woke up one morning and it wasn't like, oh my God, I all of a sudden have energy. I just was more aware that there was energy that was more consistently present. Whereas when I was in the thick of burnout, I'd wake up like I hadn't slept. I had slept, but I never felt like I slept. There wasn't obviously the quality sleep, and I was burnt out. That was the sign. But to wake up and not feel like I hadn't had a sleep was the biggest present anyone could have gotten me. So yeah, you see that with your clients too, that joy. That's you know, one of the trade-offs too. And I know I feel like I'm going something from, you know, really beautiful, the benefits, but we've also said, you know, like the challenges, and I didn't want to skip over that too, you know, the challenge of communicating what we need, especially if we've been toxically independent. But also I was just thinking, I didn't want to skip over this, you know, being able to say no to things, to be able, you know, that your step with that first key factor, looking at that 2 weeks ahead and saying no to things, taking it off your plate. And I was just wondering, you know, and even with the sleep, nutrition and movement, any sort of challenges that come up there? Because I know with working with my clients, and I know with my own experiences, there were challenges with saying no and putting boundaries in. There was challenges with prioritizing, particularly around nutrition for me. Movement and sleep is not necessarily a drama for me, but nutrition has always been a drama. But yeah, what sort of challenges there, and if there's any you wanted to talk to.
I think one of the ones I see most often, and is the thought that people are worried the world's going to fall apart if they say no to something, and they hold on to that, and it's crippling. You know, they really believe, like they might come and they listen to this process and that it might help them, and then they go back and they're like, but I can't. I can't, because this won't happen, or my child won't get to do this or this, and it's like, just give it a go and see. Like your child might be happier as well, not going to X activity, or having some downtime in the afternoon, or whatever it is. And we know once you do it once, that the world didn't fall apart, and my world, my little world didn't fall apart, and it actually felt good. So I think that's one of the main challenges, that first time of
like the mind kicks in, that like anxiety, right? Fear, like the world's going to fall apart. And that's a real, I noticed that too, with people like faced with, needing to take off the load somewhere and saying no to things. It brings up a lot of discomfort, often in the fear, anxiety, and it often takes, it's doing it that creates a different message back to the mind that, hey, no, the world didn't fall apart. But it's not till we do it that we can get that new message, and not the message we're currently hearing in our head that everything's going to be doom and gloom if we don't do it.
I think the other big one, main challenge, is like it just goes against everything that we've been told so far. And I think there's a lot of, you've got to be okay with sitting with that uncomfortable. Like I remember the first time I sat on the couch and did nothing, it's like, I shouldn't be doing this, and what's my husband going to say when I, if he comes home and I'm just sitting on the couch? It's tricky. And a lot of people really struggle with that initially because it feels so wrong. It feels so foreign, and they can't do it. They see the mess, and they just have to clean it, so
there's a lot of programming that we come with, isn't it, up until that time, that fuels that difficulty. And so when we're engaging in that new behavior, as you said, it does take a need to be willing to sit in that discomfort, because it's going to feel wrong. Doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it's going to feel wrong because of that programming. We've been taught, that we should be, like you said it earlier, with the busy culture, we've been taught that resting is lazy, sitting down is lazy, taking care of ourselves is selfish, or whatever the rules or the messages that come from the culture in which we live in, systemically, the world culture, but also family culture, possibly the education. There's so many things that form our culture and our learned programming, but we don't need to continue with that programming. But it will feel weird as we're transitioning, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Keep doing it. I remember actually a colleague of mine, mentor, that he often describes sort of, he does some work in his work is more in the compassion and helping people become compassionate towards themselves. And he often uses that starting to do the self-compassionate acts can feel like a new pair of shoes that don't quite feel right, but we need to wear them in. So that's just, and I love that it's sat with me, and I share that with my clients when, whether it's self-compassion or saying no, which is compassionate really for ourselves, that, it can feel like a, new pair of shoes for a bit. Doesn't mean that it's wrong pair of shoes.
That's right.
So any other sort of challenges, or even those benefits that you want to share with us before just want to give space to that, if there was any others?
No, I think they're sort of the main challenges. The other challenge is time.
Bloody time. Hey, we could do a whole section on that.
But hopefully by doing the process, they've started to see that, the time. And I think the other thing is, this process as well is there will always be things in your life that you consider toxic, not ideal. So this process isn't about getting rid of everything, that's because some things you have to do, but it's working with the person to find that balance of some things you have to do, and that's okay, but you won't resent them as much when you've also got other things in your life that you've got something to look forward to. So we're not here to sell, lollipops and rainbows. There is the reality.
You may be still picking up after the kids, cleaning the house and things that you don't want to do. But when we have more balance and that energy is coming in, these things don't grate us as much, or our mindset, because it's a lot healthier, might see the value out of those things. I certainly see that shift as well in myself. Things like I remember my husband saying I was so irritable, everything would spark a fight. Like things like, he doesn't fold laundry. He'll take it off the line, but he won't fold laundry. But I would just be, because I was so stressed out and so imbalanced. Whereas now he still doesn't fold the laundry. But I don't care. I just don't care. I'm able to see the bigger picture. I'm able to see what he does contribute, what I contribute. And it just doesn't, because I'm more balanced. I think, it does make a difference. And there's still the have tos. It's not sunshine roses. We might still be caring for elderly parents. We may still be, facing our own chronic illnesses, but we can find calm within that space with finding more balance. We can find happiness and joy within that. Doesn't mean that we're not having days where we're sad and unhappy and frustrated, but more of a balance.
Absolutely.
Well, so much richness that is, and wisdom that is already shared in our chat already. I was just wondering, is there, I always like to ask this of my guests, if there's sort of one thing or that, like a key message, and it might be something that you've already shared today, but just something to leave the audience with, that to take away in this, chat about busy to balance, finding happiness in a fast-paced world. What would be that key thing?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just around trust the process. So trust that the world's not going to fall apart. Trust that there is a different way of being, and that it can bring you the missing links that that you're currently not having. So yeah, the sooner you're willing to trust the process and give it a go and change your destiny, the the quicker it's going to happen, the better it'll be.
Trust the process. That's it.
Yeah.
And I love that word process, because it is a process. It's not like all of a sudden we find ourselves here, from here, like from, burnt out to balanced. It's a process, and it's an ongoing process as well. But trust it, yeah. Which I always like, trust, it's such a hard thing sometimes, isn't it? Like, but it's a part of trust. I take this from Brené Brown. She talks about part of trust is faith, and not faith in a deity or anything like that. Faith that there's something we can't see yet, so part of trust is faith, but also all this wisdom and knowledge that you shared. Part of trust is also the knowledge that you're gaining from people who've been there, done that, work in this space, connect with that knowledge, that wisdom, and combine that with faith, and trust in that process and keep walking out.
Yeah, and the other thing I sort of say to clients as well is that it's okay to live a full life, just not a busy life.
Yeah.
So people will still say to me, "Oh, you're so busy." I'm like, "I'm not busy." I said, "My life is full. My life is full doing things that make me happy and bring me joy, and I love doing what I do." So so I think we need to change the narrative a little bit and start saying that our goal is to live a full life that's balanced and brings us joy.
I love that. I've got like little goosies. That word, I don't think I've had a word yet, because people will look at me and go, "You're busy, you're doing this, but it's full." It's full. Like, yes, it's full, but it's not busy. It's totally different to how I used to live, and it's full. I just didn't have a word. Language, narrative is so powerful. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you from me to you. Now I'm imagining, and I know people listening, watching this back, want to know how to get in touch with you, whether it is to work with you one-on-one, or whether it's to engage in any resources you have out there. And I've mentioned your book, but this is how would people get in touch with, how can they connect with your resources that you have on offer?
So I'm the founder of Conscious Living Hub, so you can find me on the internet or Facebook or Instagram. Basically, I use those platforms to just share tips and ideas on how people can live a more balanced life, and a lot of focus on mindset, helping people create the right mindset. As you mentioned before, I was very fortunate to co-author a book called Goodbye Busy, Hello Happy, which is a book that 26 ladies co-authored, and they all share their own story, and it's really powerful. I've read it. Obviously I share one way that you can recreate balance, and mine's one of many. So when if you take the time to read the book, there'll be something that resonates. You'll find a chapter that is your starting point, because we're all again at a difference. There'll be something that you're like, yep, that's where I'm at now. I need to do that chapter first, and then I'll be ready for the next someone else's insights. And then you can engage me as a speaker if you'd like me to talk to your groups around burnout, or I'm available as a coach.
Yeah. Oh, so much. And I'm totally getting that book to read. I love people's stories. I love learning from them. There's so much wisdom in that, and I love what you're about to there. That just even spreading that message, like we might resonate with someone else's story or someone else's way, and it's just finding your way and finding what works with you, and just keep exploring and trusting that process too, and keep finding that way. I'm going to leave all those details, of course, in the bio of wherever you're watching this podcast, so you can find these details to connect with Ange. Definitely. And please do. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and deep dive into your work and into your wisdom. This is what I love about doing this podcast is I get so much wisdom. There's so much value that I get from just sitting down and having these conversations and meeting people like yourself and what you're giving out into the world. And it comes from such a personal space, which I think just makes it all that much richer. So thank you for your time, Ange.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to When Burnout Becomes Reality podcast. This pod relies on the power of its listeners to push it out to the four corners of the earth in hope that it reaches as many people in need as possible. So please like, share, follow, comment, or leave a review. Pay it forward, and I will be forever grateful. If you'd like to share your burnout to recover experience, or you are an expert working in the burnout field and would like to share your wisdom on the pod, please email me at shannonswales@burnoutspsychologysupport.com. To keep up to date with episode releases, please follow us on your favourite podcast provider or by joining our mailing list at www.burnoutspsychologysupport.com. To check out the Burnout Psychology services on offer at Burnout Psychology Support, my telehealth practice, visit www.burnoutspsychologysupport.com/psychology services. Once again, thank you for listening, and please take care of yourself. Bye for now.